Grand Rising, fam bam. So I wanted just to give some of you some enlightenment that may be looking for the tide of the title Indigenous or Native. Let me give you a little bit of history. And you can look this up for yourself. You can dig because I've dug. In fact, I had to do it the hard way because, again, most of y'all don't know, maternally, my lineage is only 3 generations civilized, meaning my grandmother came from a residential school, okay? That means she was ripped from her reservation and put into a Catholic residential school, and then she got out, and then she got married. She came to the States. Well, that's kind of like confusing because, you know, the border to Canada and New England hasn't been ratified. So it really isn't a border. Oops. Sorry, guys. But anyhow, she started her life, right? Her civilized life here. So my history is very, 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 very new, right? Or shall I say her story, not his story. But so the Micmac in Canada, they spell it M-I-K-M-A-Q. Here in the States, they spell it M-I-C-M-A-C. If you do the history, you'll see that the indigenous people were very dark. In fact, you can find pictures of Micmac children who look Haitian. So, and there's remnants to this day. In fact, I have a piece of the remnants that tells you our history in my home that was gifted from our museum. It was gifted to our museum and gifted to me. Our ancestors work in very mysterious ways. So the southern states and Canada, all of that, our people were everywhere. That's why I got roots in Louisiana. That's why I got roots in France. That's why I got roots in Israel. That's why I got roots all over this world, just like many of our indigenous. So the important thing is to start with what you know. Know thyself. Doesn't matter what nobody else tells you. If you go by treaties, they're going to lie to you, right? They lied to my people here in the States for many years. My tribe was not recognized federally until 1991, which I find is really weird, considering that we had treaties from the 1700s, right? And it wasn't until our elders and leaders had copies of these documents, and then they was like, "Oh, okay, they know who they are. We got to recognize them." Look it up. I know this because my mother, my grandmother, and all the other pillars in our community took place and took action to get federally recognized. Like some of our elders now. Shout out to our brothers and sisters that's trying to get them federally recognized. We are all connected, people. All connected. So if you want to sit there and watch media and you think, you know, Dances with Wolves and all these is going to show you art doesn't imitate life all the time. Understand our history. A lot of it is gauged by the artistic remnants of those eras, right? So why would they not put out art to deceive people? Now, I'm not saying that indigenous people didn't look different, because we all did. If you look at the original races and the sub-races, you'll see. But today in 2019, we should not be confused. At this point, technically, aren't we all indigenous? So the thing is with people that present all these historical facts, the more that you push through and you start studying, you take their meat and then you apply it and you start studying, you're going to end up right back at the tail or spores. I've done it. Why? Because I searched for thyself. You got to understand that I grew up in the DMV area where everybody said I got Indian in my family, but I was actually registered to a tribe, right? And not that I discounted their heritage, but I knew there was truth in it. Why? Because my mother's husband, my stepfather who raised me, was considered black. But if you go see his grandmother, who is still alive today at 90-something years old and takes care of her own self, grows her own garden in Halifax, Virginia. Oh, Virginia, you say? Yeah. Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, there are lots of tribes that were extinguished. You can find some remnants, the Lenape tribe. You can find some elders, but they're deep in the country. You gotta ride down them dirt roads. You gotta go out. And you gotta know them for them to share. You gotta know their history and why they didn't speak about their Indian roots. The same reason why my grandmother didn't. She came from a residential home where she was beaten, where she was abused. She wasn't allowed to speak her own language. She wasn't allowed to do any type of spirituality that she knew as a child. None of that. So growing up, we had to learn the things that we learned through digging and prying. Now, it was beneficial for me, and it was a blessing for me that both the matriarchs of my line knew where we came from, and little bits and pieces would come out, right? And then it really benefited me as a tribal leader, as a vice chief. Not only did I advocate for programs and funding and taking care of my people, but I also was digging for my people. And then when I sat as a tribal clerk, the one that, handles our census, the ones that approve, lines up and does all the research and make sure everyone's papers and documents matched our criteria in order to become a member, then I started to access other things. Then I started to access other individuals that are in that same realm within their tribes across the nations, okay? Now, understand that the Micmacs have plenty of nations all along New Brunswick and all along, Nova Scotia, all of it. Look it up. I don't have to lie. I don't have to prove nothing because I've already proved it to myself. I share my story because I see my other people who are in confusion because they're surrounded by the confused. And one of the people that shout out to Brother T, I think he said T-Bone. He named a few people in which he respected and a few people that are a joke. And if you are from the 80s and the 90s and you grew up in hip-hop, you know these individuals. You know they full of shit. You know it. They've gotten caught up. Difference is, it's 2019. The receipts are open, baby. Everyone documents. Everyone is a watcher. That's the difference. So I really urge people to not look at the individual that's delivering the history or her story. Take the meats and leave the bone. And what I mean by that is a few individuals that put me on to, studying the Pan-African movement and all of that. That's what led me to the true that was hidden in my maternal lineage. If I never learned about the Egyptians and their language and the whole history of the hieroglyphs and the petroglyphs, I would have never been able to link our history from the Micmac to the true roots. Because you got to understand what social engineering is, people. It is the true art of war to civilize a group of indigenous people. So you think that there's not a method? Absolutely. They wait for one group to forget who they are. They tie that group to another group, to another group, to another group. That's what happens. And I'm sorry to say, like in my tribe and many of you other tribes, you'll find the link of who got weak, who was the weakest link. And they weren't weak because they wanted to enslave their people. They were weak because we were naive. We were kinfolk. We were people who honored all life. So even when the enemy came to us and made contact, we was leery, but we were kinfolk. We had to give him a chance, right? If you look, I work with a deck, and one of them is called the Warrior card. And I'm not sure if it's on this account or if it's on my other account. But the warrior card surrounds itself. It tells you how the warriors of our tribe were not able to protect their people. It's because they grew weak with their addiction. And this card is represented by alcohol. That's how they defeated our people. And you see it today. You see it in today's society. They weaken the men, the warriors. They pit the warriors against the women, and the women against the warriors. They divide them, then they go after the children. That's the easy part. Because if you get them young and you get them indoctrinated and you get them programmed, there you go. So anyway, I know that was a little rant, but do your history. Do your history. Some of the great elders that I came across being a tribal leader, I am forever, forever grateful. And I want to say, when I encountered the leaders of the Catawba tribe, at the time it was 2 men, and they represented 2 sides of the spectrum in one tribe, it made me realize that we all do look different. Some of us do look like Dances of Wolves, but some of us don't. And I don't care what nobody say. I'm not going to trade with what I look like for what you think I am. Or did I say that right? I'm not going to trade who I am because of what I look like, because you perceive in a certain way. So yes, I am an indigenous woman, a matriarch of my tribe, of my people, just like other matriarchs coming up. And we're now knowing that it's time for us to step up because our head matriarchs, our elders are passing away. So you're not going to confuse me. And I don't want to push my identification onto anyone else. But I am indigenous. I am a woman that was indigenous to this land, to Canada's land, to France's land, to every land. My ancestors walked. That's why my power means something here. A Time to Kill is a book that everyone must read, and it will put so much in perspective, especially to our women right now, who is needed. If y'all don't know that, our matriarchs are needed. A lot of us still need mammies, and some of you know what I mean. Even when you're married, your wife is still a level of accountability, and you're still a level of accountability to her, but they're taking that. That's what society's taking. So don't get confused. Go by what you do know. Go by what you do know. Those of you that don't know your mother or your father, or you may not know your family, go to an elder. Start where you were born. The word is still there. You're not going to find it in a book. You're only going to find it sitting with an elder. Humble yourself. Learn to sit with your elders. Learn to listen. And they will tell you truth. But anyway, ramble's over. I thought I'd touch base with y'all. Stay tuned, because if you haven't noticed, I am going to be launching Indigen TV, where we'll focus on today's society from the views of indigenous from all over. And there's no agenda. There's nothing to do with my program is about agenda. It's all about bringing forth perspectives and truth that we know. And I hope that my fellow indigenous people will come by and share your truth, because the elders, the matriarchs and patriarchs within our communities need to share this, need to. And again, shout out to my brothers and sisters out here that's doing it on social media. I am so, so proud to watch that. So proud. I'm only 40, and through my life, I've had to prove how indigenous I was, because I didn't look like Dances with Wolves. But thank God, the Creator gave me parents and strong women to follow behind that said, make mad women kick ass, and that's what runs in your veins. So shout out to them. Shout out to all the other elders. I love all of y'all for the free. Stop by. If you don't follow me on IG as well, you can follow me on IG. I do share a lot of info. It's under my handle, which is also Twisted Verbally. Those of you that know me for many moons, I've been on social media for a long time. So it's #Twisted Verbally. You can find me anywhere. Same handle. I am my truth. Love y'all. Ciao.